All right, so this next section, 4.3, solving systems equations by elimination. We, again, could graph these as well, but maybe we will. But for this one, for these two, I just want to practice elimination. So what we need is, we need there to be a variable that has a common number with the other variables, with the variable from the other equation, right? So I have 2x, and that's a 3x. Those aren't the same. I have a y, I have a 2y. Those aren't the same. So I can't eliminate anything yet. But if I multiply this whole equation by 2, then I will have something I can eliminate, right? So 2 times 2x, that is me 4x. 2 times negative y is negative 2y. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay, so I have a negative 2y and a negative 2y. Remember, if you have the same sign, you want to subtract to get rid of things. If we added these, then we end up with negative 4y. So let's see. I'm starting to do things I shouldn't. Okay, let's subtract. So we have 3x minus 4x. That would be negative x. We have negative 2y minus a negative 2y. So minus a negative becomes a plus. So negative 2y plus 2y, that becomes a 0. So negative x. And then 4 minus a negative 4. So again, minus a negative becomes a plus. 4 plus 4 is 8. So we have negative x equals 8. We know that if we multiply or divide by negative 1, it just moves the negative. So we're just going to give everything the opposite sign of what it currently has. So this is a negative x, that becomes a positive x. This is a positive 8, it becomes a negative 8. And our answer is x equals negative 8. So if x equals negative 8, we can plug that back in to any of these three equations, the 2x minus y, the 3x minus 2y, or the 4x minus 2y. Whichever one you want, it'll work for any of them. Let's just plug it into the second one. 3 times negative 8 minus 2y equals 4. So that would be negative 24 minus 2y equals 4. Add 24 to both sides. And we get negative 2y, because those cancel, is equal to 28. Divide both sides by negative 2. And y equals negative 14. And so my ordered pair would be negative 8, negative 14. Okay, let's do this one. This one is a little bit more difficult because we don't have really the common multiples, right? I mean, we can't just multiply one of the equations by some constant and get a 3. I guess we could multiply it by 3 over 2, but then we get really ugly, weird fractions. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to multiply everything in this equation by 3 and everything in this equation by 2. And this means that I'm trying to get rid of my y, right? So I took my coefficient, the number attached to the y, so 2 times y. I took that coefficient and multiplied this equation by it. And I took this coefficient and multiplied the top equation by it. Okay, so I'm going to multiply that out. 3 times 5x gives me 15x. 3 times negative 2y is negative 6y. And 3 times 10 is 30. 2 times 4x, that gives me 8x. 2 times 3y, that's a positive 6y. And 2 times negative 6 is a negative 12. Okay, so I have opposite signs this time, but the same number. So I'm going to add them. So if I add them together, that should cancel them out. If I subtract them, then it puts them together. So 15x plus 8x, that gives me 23x. That's pretty. 23x. Negative 6y plus 6y, that gives me 0. And 30 plus a negative 12, 30 minus 12, gives me 18. And then I divide both sides by 23. and x equals 18 over 23. And that's my final answer. I'm not going to mess with that one. Okay, so now we can plug this back in for our x and solve for y. Or we can do our elimination again and solve for y. And I don't really want to mess with the 18 over 23. I guess we could multiply everything by 23. But again, that's going to get pretty ugly pretty quickly. So let's do this. Let's do 4 times 5x minus 2y equals 10. And 5 times 4x plus 3y equals negative 6. Okay, and I'm just going to bring those over. That gives me 20x minus 8y equals 40, and 20x plus 15y equals negative 30. All right, so I have a positive 20x and a positive 20x. If I want them to be eliminated, I need to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 20x minus 20x is 0. Negative 8 minus a 15. So we're 8 feet down. We're going to add another, we're going to go another 15 feet down. So that's negative 23y. And so positive 40 minus a negative 30. Okay, minus a negative 30, that becomes a plus 30, so that's 70. Divide both sides by negative 23. And we end up with y equals negative 70 over 23. At least they both have the same denominator. But not very pretty numbers. If we were to graph this, it would be pretty hard to see what the answer is, right? To come up with an accurate answer. So our final ordered pair would be 18 over 23 and negative 70 over 23.